Hey, welcome back. We got a knife here. Very excited for this one. It's just in from Wells Blade Works. I really was intrigued by my first that I bought from Walter. But this other one was already pre-built. Someone else either had ordered it or he had just built it, like first come, first serve or whatever. And I liked a lot about it, but there's some things that I thought would be really cool. So I went back to Walter. This is just some packing material. I think that's the knife there. More packing material, and then hopefully this is the build spec sheet, which will be really cool to review. Excellent. If I see this right, it looks like there's nothing here that I can't share. So, here's the description. It's basically the same size as my other one, but very different build. There are just a few things that I felt could be improved and or I wanted different if I was going to get another one. And he was super receptive. Like, I have never worked with a maker that was so flexible, and just sometimes you're like a little worried when you give feedback that they might take it personally or something. He was very receptive and communicative, and man, oh, that thing, that's impressive. It actually has a little more heft to it than my other one. Here's my other one. So this is the one I bought before. So yeah, I'll go through some of the changes that I went for and just talk a little bit about this build, but let's just take it out first and get a quick look. Yeah, that was what I looked for. So I was talking about how good he is at communicating. There's a few things I'll noticed here about covering shipping for the first 60 days. Very detailed. And then there were some things that I really thought would make the knife just really nice. And he was just willing to do all of them. And that was really neat to me. And man, it worked. Everything here feels fantastic. Wow. And then he was willing to also do this forward finger choil, and that is exactly what I was hoping for. Wow, this knife feels, this is better than I expected. I don't say that often. This is better than I expected. I'm really impressed. So let's go through the build a little bit, and I'll talk about some of the things I did. Here's the original one, and I've been working with it now for, I don't know, I've had this for a month or two. I can't remember when I got it, at least a month, but I think I've had it for 2 months. And the first one was the thumb hole wasn't chamfered, and I thought that that was a little sharp, so I asked him to do that. He did it really nicely here. Let's zoom in and take a quick look at the chamfer he threw on that thumb hole. That's perfect. Really nicely done. Just feels much softer on the thumb when you roll it out. So that's number one thing I would recommend if you work on a knife with Walter. The second one is, I mentioned the choil. This one doesn't even have a sharpening choil. I think you can ask for that, but I didn't. Like I said, I just got like a build that he had already done. So he was willing to do that. So he put in, I figured if I'm going to do the sharpening choil, one of the things I felt about this knife was that you have this really big drop in here for the middle finger, and then the front finger was too high up. So I asked him to build that finger choil right in there, and it is just feeling perfect. I also think he didn't do this as cut down as far, which I think I asked him for. I can't remember. And one of the things that you notice when you're handling it is you don't need this much access to the lock bar. That much right there is just great. It's already pretty wide on this knife, and so that was really big. And the next one was the lock bar was kind of thin, and there's no chamfer on it. It's not super sharp, but it just feels a little, it's a little sharp on the finger, and it just feels a little flimsy. So I asked him for a thicker lock bar, which he did, just a little bit. It's not a huge amount, but also put a chamfer on it, and he did it, and it feels fantastic. It feels like a completely different knife. Like, that makes a really big difference. Those little chamfered edges on the things that you touch a lot make a big difference. I'm not sure if I specifically asked for it, but this is a little thinner up here, which I think looks good and feels good. So like the top of the knife here isn't quite as bulky, and then the bottom's pretty similar. I switched up the colors, so I went with a G10 with a little liner here, and then the same marbled carbon fiber, but as a bolster, and I just love the look of it. And then instead of the bronze hardware, I went with the sort of matching satin hardware. The last thing was this one had a maker's mark on it in a compound grind. And on this one, I went with a satin, and I asked him to remove the maker's mark because I've noticed on his satin, the maker's mark really stands out. Man, that looks awesome. So I think it's a hand rubbed up here, and then a swedge, and then a belt satin grind. Man, that just looks so good. Edge feels really nice on there. Maybe we'll cut a little paper. Ooh, yeah. It's not like quite Spyderco sharp, but just right up there. It's very good. Very good edge on it. So that feels good. Yeah, and then instead of obviously the acid wash, what else? I think that's about it. I think those were the main things I asked them for. Maybe we'll see if there's anything else I mentioned in here. I think that the rest of it's pretty much the same. Wow, yeah, it came out really nice. I'm excited. This is great. Let's see if there's anything else that just stands out to me that I asked for. 20 CV blade, 6162 HRC. Obviously, I went for the sheep's foot this time, and I specifically asked for this shape. Like, he had a couple different shapes that were sort of too much one way or the other, and he nailed it. I mean, this thing looks great to me. Action feels great. Oh, and then instead of this sort of big jimping and this big front flipper, I wanted something more minimalist. So this one works okay. I've noticed at the top, it doesn't work as well as it does on the side, but it works okay. It's almost a little too radical though. So I wanted something a little more subtle. Same thing on this one. I notice the same sort of thing. You don't really want to be way up at the top there. You want to be sort of on the side, and then it'll work pretty well. Of course, I blew it on that one, but more of a user thing than anything else. Yeah, overall, it feels really good. I probably would ask for this to be sanded down a little more. It's a little sharp, which gives you great traction, but not my greatest feel. And yeah, it's really nice not having my fingernail get all chewed up by this thumb hole. So this feels fantastic. I'm really impressed. Just like my other one, it comes with a touch of blade play. But I probably would tighten it down in favor of no blade play instead of this drop shutty kind of action. I don't mind the closing feeling. These run on phosphor bronze washers, and this thing has broken in and become one of my smoothest knives. It just has really nice action. So I imagine this would be very similar. So I'll probably do the same thing, tighten it up and kind of go for a little more of that Chris Reeves feel. The nice thing is it's just a really nice break. And because you don't have like a frame lock, man, the thing is just fantastic for rolling out without having to worry about putting your finger on the liner. This thing came out really nice. This is better than I expected. What more can you say? That's a really nice thing when that happens. Now this one has less lock stick too. When this one got here, it had really bad lock stick. You can hear it still has a little bit. Especially if I slam it out like that. And you can see it's almost a little late on the lock up there. Hear that? It's not terrible, and it's gotten better and better, so I imagine eventually it will go away. This one has almost none. You might hear a little click there, but it's not gritty or anything. So that's really, really nice. But a bit bigger of a backspace. Oh no, I guess this is the same backspacer style, which I think is what I asked for. So I'm excited. Let's see what the weight is on this. It says over here that it's a 7.5 inch overall length with 3 1/4 inch blade. But here's the original, 3.1 ounces. One of the cool things about these, maybe there's a trade-off there, but they don't have metal liners, so they're really light for their size. So about 3.1 ounces on the original. This one's a little heavier, 3.39, and I think it's because of the additional weight of that lock bar. I mean, maybe the blade also. This thing's got a really high, like super thin hollow grind on it. This one's definitely feels a little thicker behind the edge. Man, this feels just perfect too. That is, I love this blade stock thickness. God, this is, if I just did like my top 30 knife list, this probably would have broken onto that list. This is really nice. Simple but effective pocket clip. Like for $425, he did everything I asked for on this. I mean, again, doesn't have metal or tie liners, so there's something to be said about the rigidity of a knife like this. So, you know, this one, again, doesn't have any, this one has no blade play. But again, you have to sacrifice that. I think by going G10 only on the scales, you kind of have a trade-off there. Oh, you know the other thing I asked for, I think, if I recall correctly, was the inside of these edges were a little sharp, and I think I asked him to sand that, and it is super smooth on this one. So I think he did that. Yeah, that's super smooth in there. It feels great. Wow. Walter, I imagine you probably won't watch this, but I'm going to send you the link, so hopefully you do. Really appreciate this, man. You knocked it out of the park. This thing, I already saw a couple of people respond to he posted the video of it, and a couple of people already ordered it, which, yeah, I can see why. I mean, I've been kind of thinking through the perfect knife, and this was an opportunity for me to kind of get to co-design that with someone using his, you know, core design, but my sort of overall asks in terms of the two choils, the nice lockbar, the chamfer where I liked it, I mean, this just, fuck, sorry, I don't swear much on this channel, but this thing came out really nice. I'm stoked. I don't know if there's too much more to say about it, aside from, yeah, if you like what you see, feel free to hit up Walter Wells. I think it's Wells Blade, Wells_Blade_works on Instagram. But if you just sort of search Wells Blade Works on Instagram, you'll find him. Look at that. Super cool. Super stoked. Nice when a great plan works out. So yeah, there's not a lot of USA made knives where you can custom order exactly how you want and get such a great result and such great service. And it was done in less than, I don't know, 3 weeks. Like from request to delivery, it was probably 3 or 4 weeks. So really neat. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I'm going to go spend some time, and I got to watch the Warriors highlights from their game at the Wizards tonight. Hopefully they made Jordan Poole pay for helping set off the decline of their performance over the last year, in my opinion, with his culture issues. And I'm going to be flipping this for sure. This is a really special one. So that's all for now. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.